Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be with you today. After more than 30 years in our industry and 22 years with Magna, I'm honored to be joining you today as Magna's CEO. Some of you may not know a lot about Magna, but I'm sure that you know our work. We are one of the largest automotive suppliers in the world. You've probably sat in our seats or folded them into the floor of your minivan. You have probably shifted one of our dual clutch transmissions and put power to our powertrains. And you've probably used one of our vision-based technologies every time you've turned on your car. For more than 60 years, we have helped automakers through transition and transformation. And to that end, we are proud that we have become the go-to supplier in our industry. To those of you like us who have been in the transportation game a long time, we are proud to be among you. And to the many startups that make the EcoMotion community so vibrant, we are honored to meet you. And we are excited to see your ingenuity on full display. I've spent my entire career in this field, and I can't think of a more important or more dynamic time to be entering the new mobility space, with its outsized impact on the economy and society at large. I think it's important to understand the inflection point we are in, and that means understanding the disruption that comes with changes in technology. New breakthroughs are powering advanced technologies, which in turn are driving the formation of new companies who can then innovate further. It's a positive feedback loop, and that, without a doubt, is a wonderful thing. Advances in ADAS capabilities make it possible for cars to be exponentially smarter, and we have found many ways to leverage that intelligence. Our cars are safer now, they are more efficient, and this is just the beginning. At the same time, advances in battery technology are transforming the economics of electrification, and that too is redefining what is possible, not just in mobility, but in other applications as well. It's a kind of convergence that allows us to imagine a new future. The possibilities are limitless. However, we face another kind of disruption as well, the kind of disruption that comes in the form of a pandemic that impacts millions of lives and locks us in our homes. The kind of disruption that comes in the form of worsening climate change, which has the potential to turn 500-year events into yearly occurrences. It's the unpredictability that creates so much uncertainty. You simply cannot plan a strategy for your business that foresees a sandstorm marooning a cargo ship in the middle of the Suez Canal. Now, chip shortages, that too, remind us of the fragility of the global economy. And like climate change, they show us that if we maximize efficiency at the expense of resiliency, that is not efficient at all. But all of these disruptions open up new opportunities. They are opportunities for innovative thinkers to improve on the status quo. In pandemic preparedness, supply chain, green technology, and yes, new mobility. This is all to say that the world may change more in the next 10 years than it did in the past 50. And those of us on the front lines of those changes have a critical role to play. We have a responsibility to continue innovating. From my perspective, our success depends on how we approach the work of innovation itself. Whether you are a 60-year-old startup like Magna or a 6-month-old startup chasing that frothy Series A. The reality is the same. Your company will live or die based not just on its ability to innovate, but on the rate at which it can innovate. When the world is moving so quickly and so dynamically, when competition is so strong and so focused, the winners are those who can stay ahead of the curve. Now, it's often said that good innovation is the product of serendipity. That's the whole reason places like Tel Aviv and Silicon Valley are so innovative, is that smart people are clustered together in ways that create serendipitous encounters. And to a certain extent, that is quite obviously true. But that storyline imagines innovation as something made of magic, something that comes along when you least expect it. And I don't really believe that. Of course, it's true that we are often struck by inspiration at random times. But innovation and inspiration are not the same thing. To use a metaphor we'll all understand, innovation is the powertrain while inspiration is the fuel. Which is to say, innovation is a complex process. It is a discipline. And those companies that succeed over the long term are the ones who are able to operationalize that discipline again and again and again without having to wait for that serendipitous moment to arrive. For us at Magna, we believe that the process of innovation has to start with how we frame the questions we seek to answer. Let me give you an example. If you ask the question, how do we protect people involved in a car accident? The innovations that result from that are seat belts and airbags and crumple zones. But if you ask the question, how do we prevent people from getting into accidents in the first place? The innovations are completely different. Instead of seat belts, you get lane assist. Instead of airbags, you get auto braking. Instead of crumple zones, you get blind spot alerts. Here's another example. If you ask the question, what would it take to build a viable electric car? The innovations you get come in the form of battery technology and electric motors and charging networks. But if you ask the question, how do we reduce the impact of transportation on greenhouse emissions? You might find yourselves heading down a different road. Because now you're measuring how much carbon is emitted during the lithium mining process that's essential for batteries. Now you're starting to realize that it takes a lot more energy to make an electric car than a traditional one. Now you're asking what the marginal difference is between powering a car with gasoline and powering one with electricity that's derived from coal. And that kind of thinking can lead to all kinds of new innovations. Innovations that are focused on how to maximize the efficiency beyond just batteries. All of which is to say that the companies that will succeed in this new environment are those that are focused on the right kinds of questions, and the ones who treat innovation as a discipline rather than an exercise in curiosity. And by the way, this is probably more important in a high-tech space like ours than just about anywhere else. If you're selling a SaaS product, you can just release a beta version to users and use that to figure out what they like and what they don't, and what works and what doesn't. But when you're building a 3,000-pound vehicle made up of 30,000 parts and 100 million lines of code that has to be operated in real-world conditions by a 16-year-old, well, it's a bit of a different story. And that brings me to my last point, which is that not all innovation has to be done in-house or on your own. The whole reason our customers partner with us is that they have strengths and weaknesses, and we are there to fill the gap. We understand the entire vehicle, every system and every part, and that systems level understanding helps us understand the trade-offs. It helps us ask the right questions. It helps us innovate in a disciplined way. We help our customers innovate in spaces where they may not have the institutional knowledge or expertise. It's how they meet their missions, and it's how we meet ours. And so, I think it's important that you do the work of differentiating between potential competitors and potential collaborators. I think it matters that you find the right partners to help keep you one step ahead. Because in such a dynamic world, no one company or even one country can do it all. With that said, let me just say how hopeful I am. Truly, I think there is so much we can accomplish together, and I think we are destined to accomplish great things. I want to end with a story that the late Shimon Peres was fond of telling. It's the story of a famous painter who, toward the end of his life, is interviewed by a young journalist. She says to the painter, "You have painted so many masterpieces in your life. Which one is your favorite?" The painter's response, "The one I'll paint tomorrow." In that spirit, let me say how proud I am of all that we have achieved as an industry today. But most of all, I am excited for what we will do tomorrow.